Hello, welcome back. This is Lee Fuller, and you're listening to the Bible in Real Life podcast. So, I told y'all I was going to be bringing you different entrepreneurs, different people on the podcast. So, today is one of those episodes. But before I get into today's special guest, I really got to make sure you are paying attention. All right. We have been putting out some tremendous content on Instagram, Bible in Real Life, on TikTok, Bible in Real Life. So I appreciate the love on those platforms. Each day we're sharing various things as we're kind of going through and applying the Bible to real life. If you're not subscribed or following, make sure you check it out. But those of you that have come to the podcast, y'all know y'all are ready for some serious insight, for some serious discussion. And I say serious kind of jokingly, right? Because we are gonna laugh. You know, you probably get a good belly laugh in today because the buddy that I got on today is entertaining, and we're hoping to have a good time. So today we are going to be talking about careers. We're going to be talking about how not only is God concerned about our spiritual lives, He's also concerned about our purpose and what we do in our careers and so forth. So, with that said, I'm going to introduce our guest today. Today, we are blessed to have Mr. Fred Willis on the call today. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much, Lee, for this invitation.
Outstanding. Well, we are glad to have you, and I'm always looking to find people that can bless the people, that can encourage us and help us get moving on the right direction. Well, I got to do a little bit of a bio because I'm excited about the guest. I want to make sure y'all excited about the guest. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Fred Willis. So he's a digital media entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. He has served as former editor-in-chief of Signature Radio and News Online, and has continued to expand the reach of his voice in media as a contributor to the Huffington Post blog, Christian Post, and numerous outlets across the nation. When you hear this silky smooth voice, you'll probably be like, you know what? I do recognize that voice. I probably heard it on the radio. And Mr. Fred wants us to discover the wonder of walking in purpose and allow it to change the trajectory of your life. He's a best-selling author. He's written a couple books, so I want him to talk about that today. But if you're ready, I'm ready, and we're going to have a great time today with Mr. Fred Willis. Here we go. Woo! A mouthful. My goodness, this man is a busy brother, and I appreciate you spending some time with us today, sir.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. Well, I am coming in from Florida, but most of the listeners know about me. Where are you located in this country, sir?
I'm in Fort Worth, Texas. In other words, Kirk Franklin's hometown. All right. So if I got to tell you about that, that'll help you know where it is. I'm about 30 minutes away from Dallas. The Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is humongous and is growing day by day. But I'm born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. I live here now. And that's where everything I do, it emanates right here from Fort Worth, Texas.
Outstanding. Well, I got to mention it. Well, I don't know because it may date the podcast, but I got to talk about it.
All right.
How are you a basketball fan?
Of course.
Okay. So how about the Mavericks? You know, I saw them throughout the playoff, and I wasn't a Mavericks fan, but I'm paying attention to what those boys are doing now.
They are doing it, and I'll tell you, I didn't have any faith in Jason Kidd as a coach, because his tenure at the Nets, I was like, come on, man, what are you doing? But these guys are in the Western Conference Finals. I think he's found a way to relate to those guys that's got them playing good. I mean, Luka Doncic is like the second coming to Dirk Nowitzki. But I'm torn, though. I'm a Mavericks fan. But I'm torn because I want to see Golden State get back to the finals. I need them to get another chip. Clay missed 2 years. That whole season, they lost KD. Then they lost Clay. In the game, I think they were going to win. I think they were going to win that game if Clay didn't go down. So I'm torn between that. I've been talking about it on the show all week. But, hey, Mavericks, pull it on out. Bring us a championship. Don't go to the finals and lose.
Right.
If you're gonna knock off Golden State, you got to win it all.
Okay. Okay. I like it. I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah,
Yeah, big sports fan. Me and my
yeah,
wife, like we are so in Florida.
yeah.
So um, I've been a Bucks fan for a while. Now I'm happy to be a Bucks fan. I'm proud to be a Bucks fan.
Right,
We,
right.
we've been a Heat fan for a while,
Okay.
so we're doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. I
Hey,
like
you
to
know they're saying we might get a rematch of '06 and '11 if Dallas
yeah,
and the Heat make it back.
right.
Now that's a game. I don't know if I'll be able to watch that series, man. Jimmy Buckets, he got those boys playing good. Tyler
Yes,
Hero,
sir.
he found his stroke again.
Yes,
Bam
sir.
Adebayo is like Mr. Defense. So it's gonna be a good series. It's gonna be a
Yeah.
good series if it's Dallas and Miami or Golden State and I don't know if I see Boston coming out of the East. But I don't know. I got my eyes on the West. We gonna see.
Yeah, I'm definitely paying attention. I'm tired. I need to go to bed, but I'm paying attention. So outstanding, outstanding. So now you mentioned you've been talking about it all week. Tell me a little bit about the show that
Sure.
you're doing.
Sure. I am a owner of an internet radio station. Soul Prosper Radio is my internet radio station, and I'm on in the mornings from 7 to 9. That's Central Standard Time. What would that be? 8 to 10. Those of you
Mhm.
on the East Coast, and 5 to 7. Those of you on the West Coast. I'm on just 2 hours in the morning, just to get people going to work, get our kids going to school, just to have a little inspiration during the day. We recap the previous day's events. We get a little word. We got a devotion to close us out. And so that's what we do. But Soul Prosper Radio is on 24 hours a day, playing great gospel music from all over the world. And we're on, we have days, our days are themed. So Wednesday is Way Back Wednesday. You can catch all of that old school music today.
Uh-oh.
I mean, we got a full day of it, y'all, too. Choirs, quartet, old school music, gospel
Right.
music. And so it's on 24/7. That's what we do, bring gospel music to our Metroplex and beyond. Mm-hmm.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Okay. Yes. My buddy told me about it. So now I'm like, hold on, let me go ahead and tune in there so my soul can prosper. Come on, sir.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. There you go. It's a lot going on in the world. It's a lot going on in gospel music. But what I did, I said I wanted to, number one, support indie artists, but I also wanted to find music. I wanted to build a playlist full of music that would speak to the soul, that would minister. And
Right.
so I think I'm doing a pretty good job at that. And of course, there's so much room for improvement. I'm just excited to see where we go from here.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Now, I got a question for you because this kind of leads us into our topic for today.
Mhm.
Um, when you were kind of thinking about how you want to make a difference or, create something, do you feel like it was something that developed with inside yourself, or like you really tapped into perhaps what your purpose was?
Purpose came from that. Purpose was revealed in that.
Okay.
And without saying the artist's name, I'll tell you off the air.
Okay.
This is a story that I share quite often. Being in Fort Worth, as I've said, Dallas Fort Worth is replete with sorry about that, replete with great gospel music. It's synonymous with great gospel artists.
Okay.
We have changed the structure of the industry. We changed the sound of the industry right here from Dallas Fort Worth. And there was an artist who sang with a very popular artist, and they were doing the solo thing. And they had a hard time as a solo artist. And I was just like, how is it that you're having such a hard time and everybody knows who you are?
Okay.
Well, the Lord allowed me to see everything behind the scenes. He allowed me to see the way the industry works. And this is like 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I said, if it's that hard for them, can you imagine how hard it is for people nobody knows?
Right.
And so I took that with me as an artist, not an artist, as a musician, working with people. I've always wanted to work in the industry. If I had it my way, I would be the second coming of Babyface. I would be the second coming of Berry Gordy. So
Okay.
those two guys were always in my purview. That's who I always said I wanted to emulate them. So as I approached music, as I played with artists, as I played with other groups and recorded with them, I was like, this is what you need to do. but they weren't listening. And so a lot of what I said fell on deaf ears.
Okay.
And in 2011, I finished college to become an audio engineer. But as I finished, the world was shifting away from big studios.
Right.
So when you needed, maybe 20, it was 20, then it went up to 50. You needed 50,000 to make a big record. It went down to about $10,000 because everything the studios had was on our computers now.
Okay.
So as that happened, studios were slashing budgets, they were slashing staff. I had nowhere to go with these newfound skills.
Oh.
So, and as you alluded to, is a little preacher in there. So I said, I don't have preaching opportunities. I can just do a little something because where I worked, a lot of people listen to talk radio.
Okay.
So I said I could put a little missive together, 15 minutes here and there, play a little music, give these artists some shine,
Okay.
Because a lot of the people I played with, I had their music on my computer. There was a lot of friends. I bought their music. It was on my computer. So I said, hey, man, I'm doing the show. Can I play your song, in between me doing the little missive or something, talking about a text or whatever, current events or something like that? Sure, man, we would love it. So my show was a podcast. This is before podcasting blew up. Now everybody got one. But this is back when, this guy sitting in the basement has a podcast.
Yeah.
And you're like, what are you, you sitting in the basement with a 10-4 hat on. That's what people thought about podcasting.
Right.
So I did the podcast and it grew. And then people started sending me music. And I was like, who is this? I don't know you. You don't know me. I don't know this artist. The music sounds good. And so I began to get music like that. And so my show, I syndicated. I sent the show out to a number of stations and all of that. And so I said all of that to say purpose was revealed. It was unfurled out of that. And secondly, 2011, what also happened, as a musician, I wasn't making the money I used to make. I had, at that point, 2 kids.
Okay.
And money was short, and I said, I don't know how I'm going to provide for my family. So our internet was off. I couldn't even job search at home. So I went to Wendy's, and I used their free internet. I had enough to buy nuggets and fries and internet. They didn't charge for the internet, but I had to make,
Correct. Excuse me, sir. Yeah. Can you
So I did that, and I was searching, and there was a website called examiner.com. They were looking for bloggers, and I was like, I think I can do this. And so they wanted writing samples. So I went to MySpace. This is a long time ago, y'all.
Okay.
MySpace, and I pulled some of my blogs from MySpace, and I sent them to them, and they were like, "Hey, you're in. Good. This is how you do it. This is how you blah blah blah." So as a writer, I was then able to put some of the information that I had been sharing. I had been able to use my experiences put it in my articles.
Okay.
As I wrote as a musician, as a producer. And so the articles were not press releases. They were not just copying and pasting. So it was like, oh, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So the combination of the podcast with the articles, the journalism space, then something, came out of there. And I was like, God, you've been working this all along.
Right.
So it was unfurled and it was revealed, So to answer your question, that was a very long answer. But that's how life is. You don't get it in one fell swoop. But I'll say this, and I'm going to end this answer. Before I started the podcast, I did all my research. I'm a reader. I did all the research. How much is this license going to cost? How much is this license going? How much is airtime? If I send it to the terrestrial station, how much is that? And the Lord told me, I can't say that I heard the Lord speak like this before, but I heard it clear as day. The Lord said, you have everything you need to get started.
Wow.
And in that moment, I understood just like that.
Yeah.
I said, I have a computer. I have an audio interface. I have I have broadcast level microphones. I have music. And I was like, you're right. So I sprang into action. And so if anybody's looking, like, what can I find my purpose? It'll come.
Right.
The situation will show up when you're going to have to walk into purpose. Or when the Lord is saying simply, it's time. It'll happen.
I am a believer in that.
Mhm.
I really believe it's hard to find your purpose sitting still. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, I believe David was out in the field,
Yep.
right? Samuel came and got him, right?
Yep.
I believe Moses was out shepherding,
Yeah.
and he saw the bush. He
Yeah.
was in the field. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So I really think purpose really is kind of yeah, it's developed. I don't know if I would say developed. I think it's uncovered,
There
right?
you go. Yeah.
And identified.
Yeah.
So I would definitely agree with that. Funny, interesting that you say this. So um, I started an internet marketing company years ago, right?
Really?
And
Okay.
the reason I started the company was because I used to listen to what's his name, DJ Wado,
Yeah.
right? He was a Christian hip hop, and I
Yep.
say, man, I am going to build a website and just link. I'm just going to list the people that DJ Wado played on his show, right?
Yeah.
The hip hop. So I created a website. I think I just took it down because it was just I wasn't paying attention with. But it was like the hip hop radio shop, and all it did, the only content on the website was, hey, here's the playlist that DJ Wado played, so you can go find the Christian hip hop people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And by doing that, I had to learn the internet. I
Yeah.
had to learn technology. I had to learn what WordPress was, blah, blah, blah. Right.
Mhm.
Now, starting there, wanting to do something to help somebody else
Yeah. Yeah.
pushed me in this whole direction. And now we are helping churches learn how to stream and so forth because I learned this process on the internet.
Yeah.
And I say all that to say, I really believe your purpose is, I think one way to find your purpose is finding a need and kind of trying to help somebody else,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But that's my 2 cents.
Well, I say in my book, and I don't want to get ahead of you, but I say in my book, this is what I discovered. God wants to use the totality of our lives for his glory. And so
Okay.
there is never something going on in our lives that he can't use. There's never
Uh,
an experience that we have that won't be meet for God's glory.
that's
Uh,
good. That's good.
Everything I do, as a writer, I was writing in high school because I couldn't get the girl. Nobody knew, nobody read that stuff. I was
Right.
just writing.
Okay.
I called myself writing a book as a freshman in college, just
Mm.
writing out emotions, writing how I really felt about my granny dying when I was 3,
Oh,
writing
wow.
how I really felt about growing up with an absentee father. Just
Uh-huh.
writing that stuff out,
Right.
and I would just closed it, and I still have the binder. I know where all of that is. I'm not using it.
Sure.
But there's never a time when God is not at work in our lives. And so go ahead.
No. I'm listening because that's such a good point.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we think that um, this area or this incident or this experience was a wasted time,
Yep.
right? Or a wasted event, or how is anything good going to come out of this?
Right.
But it's interesting that some of those incidences or experiences was the impetus or the motivation for you to start writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
good.
So
That's
it's
good.
all connected. And God wants to use the totality of it.
Yeah.
Even if it's bad stuff. He's not gonna throw it away. You can heal from it and all that, but God will use even that. He'll use the no's. I did a show called Walking Through the Door of Denial, how to use a no
Uh-huh.
and to find God's yes in the no. God, what are you saying? You said no to that, but what are you
Right.
saying yes to? What are you telling me to pursue instead?
That's good.
And so that's how I learned how to live life. Everything is connected. Everything is connected. But we have to ask God. When we pursue purpose, we have to
Yeah.
pursue it from God, the answer to that question from God, and not just doing our own thing. In all thy ways, acknowledge him.
Come on.
And he's already directing your path.
Right. Man, I think I think that speaks to the and some people don't get it, right?
Yeah.
And I hate to throw out, terms like sovereignty and God's providence and so much. But
Yeah.
I think once we start to realize that nothing is really outside of God's control, right? And he's able to make, I think it was Joseph, y'all meant it for evil.
Oh, yeah.
But God meant it for good.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, and so for any listener that is trying to discern your purpose or identify your purpose, the one nugget that Fred already dropped, or Mr. Willis, can I call you Fred? I don't know what you go
Fred, yeah.
You might be like, hey, call me,
No.
Hey, when I'm interviewing people, I have to try to be respectful. So Mr. Willis or Fred said, God can use any of it. Now, how can a person identify either how God is using it or start to identify that God is using their purpose or using these events?
Sure. I'll go give you this phrase. Don't kick against the prick. When Saul was knocked off his high horse, and Jesus says, don't kick against the prick. Many times it's already happening. And as I began this media venture, I was editing video, something that people told me I would do. That I said, I'm an audio guy. Please stop telling me that. I don't have time for video, blah, blah, blah. Here I am doing videos every week. But in videos, I learned that there's a timeline. There's a timeline. And on the timeline are markers. Now, you may be here at the beginning, but there's a marker back here that says success. So as you move along the timeline, it's in the Bible. When you go read, you read all the way to the end of the Bible. In the end, we win. We're not at the end yet. Just because you're not winning now does not impact the end. And so a person who may be saying, I'm trying to discover purpose in my life, he's already working. And when you hit that marker, when you hit that time for that revelation, God will say, here it is. Here you go. So that's purpose is not so much something you find, it's something you walk in.
That's good. That's good. No, man, I have really, like, okay, I'm sorry. Light bulbs are going off in my head now, right? Yeah. Where I can sense, or I can remember that things that I resisted at first, or I was trying to kick against the prick. Hey, you're moving in this direction. And I was like, man, I don't want to have a podcast talking about, the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Listen, I would rather, I love sports. I love all kind of stuff, right? How am I in this one? And we've started seeing success with the podcast because God is saying, hey, Lee, it's in you. Like it was in your grandma, it was in your mama, right? Hey, Timothy, listen,
there you go.
Do what you're supposed to be doing. And a lot of times we are, you said something, you said how you're acting or something like that doesn't change the ending. Like we're just at a space in the timeline, right? And as an editor, so you speak in my language because I think Final Cut is open on my computer right now. So I understand exactly what you're talking about. So that's very good. Now let me ask you this: our purpose is revealed. Do you think that it ever changes over time, or is it just? Oh, go ahead.
I think there's always a bigger purpose that's at work and at play.
Okay.
And so this is when we bring in the word pivot.
Okay.
Just because you did one thing or did a thing a certain way for so long doesn't mean forever.
Okay. Got it.
It doesn't, and some people are the type where they just cut it off. And I'm gonna tell you this: I told you God wants to use the totality of your life's experience for His glory. So just because you pivot doesn't mean that you necessarily close that door. Maybe close a chapter, but that don't mean you just completely delete it.
Okay.
And so, but listen, I've made pivots into video. Mm-hmm. I made pivots from a podcast to a full station, and that was a pivot that cost. I mean, it cost me sleep.
Right.
It cost all kinds. I pivoted from a journalist to an author.
Oh,
Pivoted
okay.
from an author to a publisher, and now publishing books for other people.
Wow.
You know, so
Wow.
there's
Okay.
always a listen. Jesus with the talents. He talks about the man who gave his servants talents, and
Right.
he says to the one with one who buried it. He said the least you could have done is took it to the changers,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's always an expectation of multiplication,
Okay.
not
Got it.
addition. Multiplication. We're talking kingdom
Right.
units here, right?
Yes.
So the pivot, in many ways, is a multiplication of what we're doing. You earned that.
That's good.
God is
That's good.
releasing more to you.
That's
You
good.
know, he's
That's good.
releasing more to you. So as he releases that, walk in it. And ask him for wisdom,
Hmm.
for what to do with the past. What to do? Do I empty out the warehouse and sell everything, or do I, bring somebody to manage that unit while I manage this? What do I do with that?
So how do we address the fear of pivoting? Because it's circumstances and different things, because we had to pivot, right?
Yes. Yeah.
COVID gave us an opportunity to
Mhm.
pivot on certain things, right?
Yeah.
Because when I was dealing with motivational speakers, so I have a couple clients that were, motivational speakers, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And there was a year and a half where we could not fill a 2,000 room because no one could come to this 2,000 room venue, right? And so we really had to pivot to kind of live streaming and understanding what that looks like. But it opened up, and allowed for a transition, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But many of the people I were talking to, they say, this is scary.
Yeah.
That pivot is scary. So how would you encourage those that are sensing maybe it's a time to pivot, but I'm scared to do that? There's fear.
Ain't nothing wrong with being afraid. That means you acknowledge it. You acknowledge something has happened. And when you can take everything to the Lord in prayer. I have adopted that as my mantra. That's my answer to a whole lot of stuff. Pray about it. Paul says in Philippians, he's addressing the Philippian church in chapter 4. He says in verse 6, be anxious for nothing. He says, but in everything by prayer with thanksgiving and supplication, let your request be made known unto God. And then he says, after you do that, then the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and mind through Christ Jesus. So sure, you're afraid. You don't know what's going to happen behind the pivot. You might lose your shirt when you pivot. But that doesn't mean, I told you, in the end we win. That does not negate God's big picture that's at play throughout the whole thing. So I was afraid to pivot into video. I don't know anything about video. No, let me just unbutton my vest a little bit and tell you the truth. As a person who did not go to school for journalism, opportunities arose for me to cover red carpet events. My first red carpet was at Maker Fest. I interviewed Babyface. Okay.
Right.
You talking, how am I supposed to stand up straight and talk to my idol?
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I know we don't use idols in church, but my idol. Okay, this is the man who showed me what I want to do and be. And I'm talking to Babyface. He right there. Holly Robinson Pete. Okay, 21 Jump Street. Anybody hanging with Mr. Cooper?
Yeah.
She walks in. Michelle Williams. The saved one from Destiny's Child. I'm joking here. Michelle Williams is on the red carpet. Then after Beverly Johnson, it was not Beverly Johnson, Harris. I forget her name. She's a model, all of that. Then walks in Bishop T.D. Jakes. What am I supposed to ask Bishop T.D. Jakes? I didn't come prepared for this. I'm not a journalist. And so I have to ask him journalist level questions.
Right.
Okay, so we talking to pivot. All I did was say, I'm not getting access to the events I'm here for, blah, blah, blah. Well, meet us here at this such and such a time at this place, and we'll let you in. I'm standing next to CNN. As a matter of fact, because I wasn't supposed to be there, I was standing in CBN spot, the 700 Club. So when Bishop Jakes walks up, Bishop Jakes is very astute. He walks up and he looks down. He said, "Son, 700 Club." Okay, and go right.
Right.
So he thinks he's talking to the 700 Club, and I'm like, "No, man, I'm just this little dude from Fort Worth. I don't know what in the world I'm doing. Can I have a picture with y'all?" That's really what I wanted to say.
Right.
You know, so many times you don't have time to face your fear when there's a pivot. Many times God just say, "Boom, there it is. Now what you gonna do with it?"
Right.
And so in prayer, I had to gather myself now. Lord, don't let me make a fool out of myself. Emmett Smith, other idol, okay? Football.
Right.
Emmett Smith walks in, and I'm like, Emmett Smith, you know, but this ain't time to be a fan.
Okay.
I was there as a blogger. I'm just getting, you know, B-roll. You know what I mean? When I say B-roll, I'm just getting the behind the scenes. This happened, and this person had on this color shirt, and the outfit was nice, and blah blah blah. Don't mind me. I'm just moving around here and there.
Okay.
And I'm on the red carpet, interviewing these people, and that was a pivot I wasn't prepared for, but I didn't fail either.
Okay. Right.
And so many times the pivot comes when we feel like we're not ready. But God is saying, I told you just a second ago, these are rewards. These are rewards. Many times that pivot is a reward. You can handle it. And I'll say this as before I close this answer. Many times the pivot comes to us as believers before the world gets it.
Oh no! Hold on. You can't just stop. Wait. No. Continue.
I'll say this, that as I came out of college, the world was shifting away from big studios into home studio, smaller studio recording. They're recording major projects in small studios.
Okay.
All right. As a podcaster, before podcasts blew up, I had one. I had a show that became pivoted from a podcast. You know, podcasting is different from radio.
To
a radio show.
Right.
I had to pivot from having a mere radio show to having a whole station. From a station to pivoting and saying, you know, I do a lot more media than audio. Let me create a conglomerate, if you will.
Right.
That encompasses audio, radio work, journalism that lets me go out and cover events in my own name.
Okay.
I don't need a letter from the editor. I am the editor.
Right.
And we talking pivots here.
Yeah.
Now we talking pivots from, okay, this is a hobby to now, okay, I need credentials. Okay, I need affiliations. And so as the pivots showed up, I had to pivot. But talking about pivoting before the world come, in 2020, a lot of us were already doing video conferencing, video chats, doing this as a way of doing things and streaming. And of course, you know, churches were so reluctant to do this. They was, you know, the first thing they want to talk about is the cost of it. Second thing they want to talk about is they don't need it. And so a lot of churches were so far behind that it took them a year to get caught up. And I'll say this, I use a device when I go out and travel for my microphone. It's made by iRig. And I had one, I used it. You know, if anybody would let me stream, I would use it. Well, guess what? In 2020, in a matter of weeks, iRig's stock, well, I won't say stock like, you know, stock, but they're the units they had, they sold out. It was 6 months after the factories closed. Once they opened up, it was like maybe 6 months before they could replenish their stock worldwide. So if you didn't have an iRig or other capability, streaming was not happening for you because as you said, people were not coming. So if I am a speaker and I want to use Zoom, you know, Zoom needs a little help. They need a little audio help. So if I can't do that, then I'm still not able to take care of this, not able to take advantage of this. And in my company, I've had to learn eBlast. So the likes of MailChimp, Constant Contact, things like that, that now the world is so commonplace now. We don't even think about it. But those were things that I had to learn and had to say, okay, today I'm learning MailChimp. I'm learning list building. I'm learning funnels, which I'm still learning funnels. But I've had to make those pivots long before it was needed.
That's good.
And that's what I mean when I say when the world gets it. Because the world said, oh my Lord, we got to do this, we got to do this. Guess what? Believers already have it. Should have it anyway. The Lord is already telling us what we need to do.
I like it. No, that's good. That's really good. That's really good. You know what? Let me ask you this, because this podcast is within our series of careers, right? So
Mhm.
purpose is a good point. But now, does your purpose um, always have to lead to a career, or can it be adjacent? Meaning, well, I'll leave it there and let you answer the question. Does your
Sure.
purpose have to lead you down the career path, or can you have a career and then fulfill your purpose, extracurricular?
I'm going to answer that using the chapter in my book, The Journey to Genesis.
Okay.
And I use my own story to answer that. Let me find this chapter.
Mhm.
I think it's in the chapter Finding Your Garden. And in that chapter, I talk about how I discovered how to use my purpose at work.
Okay.
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 So, um, or not so much purpose, but how to use what God gave me at work, right?
Okay. Hmm.
In that chapter, I think it's in that chapter. I was writing another book before I started this one, so sometimes the notes get commingled. But let's just go to Daniel.
Okay.
Daniel was a slave, I guess, when the nation of Israel was in captivity.
Okay. Okay.
Nebuchadnezzar said, "Bring me the gifted ones."
Right.
Daniel was there. So Daniel, it never fails. Daniel had to use what God gave him, even though he was captive.
Mm.
They said about Daniel, he had an excellent spirit.
Right.
Many times we go to work and we say, "Well, this ain't my purpose, so I'm gonna do enough to get my check and go home, and that's all I
Uh-oh.
care to do."
Uh-oh.
Well, what would happen if we say, "God, how have you equipped me to use me at this job?"
Mm.
And while we're talking about purpose, it takes money. Solomon said, "Money answereth all things."
Hello.
So you're going to need resources. You're going to need
Right.
finances, and yes, God can do it. But if He
Yes.
puts you in a place as far as working a 9 to 5 to do it, appreciate that. But God can use you there. He can use that brilliant mind of yours that's always trying to do something else on the clock.
Hmm.
For
Hmm.
me, it was finding ways to save the company money, whether it
Right.
was cutting down our paper costs, our paper use,
Yeah.
getting into recycling or something like that. It was ways of using. I told you, God, I want to use everything. I worked in grocery stores. So
Hmm.
we had supplies, how to stock those supplies so that we weren't ordering stuff we already had. At
Right.
work. This is at work. This is at work.
Okay.
This is not,
That's good.
I'm slacking off at work and which I did. I'll confess, I did write some shows at work. I did, write some interview questions. I wrote some articles at work because I was done. I'm done with
Yeah.
my work. Just get this pen and pad out and let me write.
Sure.
Um, at work, God wants to use you. I talked to a pastor yesterday. I went to cover a conference. Our governor was at a company here in the area, and on my way out, I saw Pastor as I was leaving. I'm like, "Hey, Pastor, how you doing?" And he was telling me about the church. Right? He's telling me about the church, and as just in conversation, he says, "Yeah, yeah, the senator is a member of my church, a virtual member, no less. Um,
Uh-huh.
but that senator owns the company he works for." So
Um,
here's something I need y'all to understand. You need access to people.
right.
Nobody has a purpose that is exclusive of people.
Mm,
And
that's
that
good.
pastor can go to his job. I don't know what his position is at that job. He might be a janitor. I don't know.
Hmm.
But he goes to work every day knowing that the owner of that company, a state senator, is a member of his church, is a virtual member of his church, and contributes to their church. Now, you could say all day, "This ain't my purpose, so I'm just gonna waste time." But guess what? God has given you something that stretches beyond the bounds of even that industry.
That's
And so
good.
those of you going to work and you struggling with your purpose, and God didn't call me to sweep floors. He didn't call me. Listen, I go for those jobs where I got a lot of free time, because when the Lord is speaking, I need time to steal away and grab my phone and do a
Hmm.
voice note or write something. And
That's
so
good.
God, if you trust God with everything, He'll send you the job to go to. Some people have launched complete, you know, industries and companies with the help of a company they were working for.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
so you
Absolutely.
you don't have to be exclusive in that. If God called you to a 9 to 5 or a corporate, whatever, work that. If he called you off that job, you got to trust him in that too.
Right.
I can testify about that, but that wasn't the question.
But yeah, no, I like how you answered that, because I really believe that many times there is a testing time. There is a, hey, are you faithful to what I placed inside of you? Yeah. Are you faithful to you know, each year we kind of go through the Bible, and I saw a Joseph that was faithful to a Moses before he was Moses. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I see people who are faithful with where they are, right? And I do think, to your point, a guy like Daniel, and we have a Nehemiah and an Ezra, those that were not the king.
Yeah.
But they were faithful in being an assistant or a cupbearer or whatever to the king, and were able to accomplish what God had for them. So I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I get it, but I like to tell people that, listen, trust in God and being where he wants you to be. You know, when I was a kid, I thought the best job in the world was a vice president, because you don't get all the responsibility. Right. Yeah. Your phone in the first one to ring, but you still got a whole lot of pull on what's going on. Right?
Yeah, you get more vacation days as vice president.
Ain't nobody tracking. Anybody counting? You don't have a running count of the days you on vacation. But I think, to your point, faithful where you're called. So no, that's good. Now I know, brother, 40. Okay, we 40 minutes in. Okay. I you know how sometimes you meet a friend, like they'll say, you know what, I met a friend today. Like, well, how are you friend if you just met him? But there's like a kindred spirit, good attitude. I like that.
Absolutely, likewise.
I definitely, you mentioned the book, so I want to give you an opportunity to talk about. So you mentioned how, as a, now get this, people, I hope you are listening to this, started off blogging, or starting off writing as a kid, was blogging, became an author, and now a publisher. See how gifts continue to make room, continue to expand, expand, and you can explore different things. So tell me a little bit about your, first of all, where to find this journey into Genesis, because I know you've mentioned a couple of times, but also to hear more about what you're doing in the author and publishing space.
Sure. My book, The Journey to Genesis, is available. If you go to A Mighty Read, you can pick up a copy there. And I wrote this book because as a man, I was on my way to a conference to speak. And on my way to the conference, I said, we don't have too many of these conferences for men. It's a ton of women's conferences. I said, initially I said, I need product. You come off the stage and you got to have a product. Speaker circuit. I began writing that, but it took a turn. There was a pivot.
Okay.
And so in that, I wanted men to not only discover purpose, but I wanted to use Adam as the example. That's why it's a journey to Genesis, that we go to our beginning, not just to the beginning, but to our beginning. Why does God have me here? And I use my life story. My conception was not ideal. Okay, my mama and daddy were not boyfriend and girlfriend, if I remember the story correctly. And as a child, you don't want to hear the story too many times. But anyway, they were not a couple. And so you want to talk about existential issues and existential crises. When you are no one's son. And you think about, well, God, why did you even let me be born? I didn't have to be here, And so if God let it be possible, then God, you must have a reason for me being here. Show me what it is and then help me walk it out.
Right.
And so that's what it is. And I show many lessons that in my lifetime I have discovered. Some were painful, some were just because I was hard headed, and the Lord had to show me this is what I'm doing, not that. And I'll say this, because I'm just kind of giving you a synopsis of the book.
Correct.
Many of the things that I wanted to do in my own way, I did not do until I began walking out things the Lord laid out for me. One thing, and I'll continue to tell this story. There were two producers I reached out to when I was, young and coming up. I was, hey, y'all are hot right now. Share some tips. What can I do? Can I join the fan club? Can I be a mentee? Whatever.
Right.
I never heard back from them. But once I began broadcasting, once I was writing, they reached out to me.
Wow.
Now they didn't say, "Didn't you send me an email?" They nothing. It was, Fred, I need your help doing this.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I have one. He'll call on Messenger on Facebook. I don't answer Messenger on Facebook, but when he calls, I'm answering.
Right.
And he's the type, he'll send me music. Just got it back from the mastering office, mastering studio. Hey, this is a new single that's coming out. I want you to play it. And I'm like, you don't even have the song marked right, but I have it. And so just talking about the level of relationship, that I have with them, professional relationship. And so just learning how to let God do everything. Let him direct my steps, cry on his shoulder. You know what I mean? God, I don't know why I'm here. I hate my life. How come my life gonna be like this one and that one? Everybody else. I wish I had a better childhood.
Right.
I say that my childhood wasn't bad, but I didn't have a father in the home. That matters. I had fathers at church. I had men at school that I could go to, but I didn't have them at home. But the Lord said to me, boy, look at all the people I put around you.
That's good.
And then look at the ones I kept you from.
That's good. Yeah.
So I said, well, God, you got a point, so I didn't like it, but he had a point, and so going to the journey to Genesis, before Adam had a woman, he had work. And so I had to come to grips and say, God, okay, I have a family now. I got a wife, children, trying to do this company thing. Show me what I'm supposed to be doing with all of this, how I'm supposed to manage this, how I'm supposed to lead them.
Right.
But with many lessons, they comprise that book, and I share it with men. We got to lead. We have to lead. We have to even lead our women into their purpose. So I want to say that right. We have to help them, walk the same journey that we're walking.
Correct.
It's easier to do for them when they see us do, because too often, these women, they go to these women conferences and their lives are just completely impacted, flipped upside down. They come home on fire for God to a man that's looking at them like, I don't know what you think I'm going to do.
Right.
So I'm encouraging men to say, what if you had that same fervor? What if you had that same, excitement about life, excitement about purpose? Your family would have no choice but to follow that same model and example. So the journey to Genesis. I have other books that I'll give y'all a chance to discover on the website, amightyread.com.
Okay.
Go there, you can read about all the books that I've written. But A Journey to Genesis The Journey to Genesis is my first book. It's very dear to my heart. A lot of my personal stories in there, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
Outstanding, man. I'm gonna have to make sure that I'll keep you in the Rolodex.
Okay.
Because from our conversation, there are multiple directions I would love to go.
Yeah.
And I see it. I can sense it in you. So for sure. But for those that want to tell them a little bit about where to go for the internet radio.
Sure.
And and if your social media platforms or wherever you want to send people, as we're kind of introducing them to you.
Sure. Well, I am Fred Willis. You can go to if you want to listen to some great gospel music, go to sbradioshow.com. That's www.sbradioshow.com. For Soul Prosper Radio, we're playing the rest of the best in gospel music. You can find it there. If you want to find out a little more about entertainment, gospel entertainment, or stories from my perspective, you can go to soulprospermedia.com. That, and if you, I think that's good enough. Those two sites. If you want to follow me on social media, you can also follow me on Facebook at Fred Willis. Look for me. You'll see a picture of me. I like the like page. Do that because that way, when I get a whole lot of people, I don't have to cap it. So follow me there. I teach a Sunday school every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time from that like page right there. Let's see. You can follow Soul Prosper Radio on Facebook. You can also, you'll find the SMG Report on Facebook. On Instagram, go to SMG Music Media. You'll find us there. I don't post there that much, but I'm getting better at it, right? My personal Instagram, this is the one that's got all the fun and excitement on it. Who is Fred Willis? You can find that on Instagram. That's me there. SPR Jams, SP Radio Jams is our radio side. And we just put that there just so that everything goes on every social channel. Ain't nothing special on there. Follow me at Who is Fred Willis. You'll get all of that. If I'm covering something, you'll see some pictures there and all that stuff. It may make it to SMG, but it may not. It's all me. It's all on my phone. So just follow me there. On Twitter, I tweet, I Know Gospel. That's that OG Twitter handle. I'm not changing it, but I Know Gospel. That's me. And then my other Twitter shows the songs that we play, SMG Music Media. You can find me there. I think that's it. I want to shout out my family, my wife, Rhonda, my children. Hey, y'all. My mama, her and my wife are tied for number one. It's not a competition. They just tied at number one.
You know what? I'm gonna use that.
They tied for number one. I'm not even, ain't nothing either one of them can do to move above the other. So they tied at number one. So hey everybody, I love y'all, Fort Worth. I'm always gonna represent Fort Worth. And Mr. Lee Fuller, thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you. You are a friend, and once we get done, we'll make sure we do those social connections and everything else like that. I am just full today. Just thank you.
Well, and I want to say thank you, sir. Thank you for the wisdom that you shared with the Bible in Real Life family community. And I want to thank you again. So make sure you are paying attention and following what Mr. Fred Willis is doing. And we have a little bit more for you, but I want to say thank you, sir. And I'll talk to you next time.
All right.
Hello. All right. So I told you, if you're not following the podcast, you are missing out. And this is one of those episodes. I don't say this every episode, but I am going to say it this time. This is one of the ones you need to go back and listen to again. This Mr. Fred Willis dropped some serious nuggets that can help you as you are living out the Bible in real life. Again, my name is Lee Fuller. Thank you for listening. Make sure you're following us on social media and tell your friends about it. And we will see you next time on the Bible in Real Life podcast. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.